So imagine having a career that puts you on national television, breakfast radio, and stages all across Australia as a keynote speaker. Pretty incredible, right? Now imagine doing that with a neurodiverse condition. So today's guest is going to prove to you that it's possible. And I hope maybe for parents, it's a great episode for kids to listen to on the way to school or something like that, because our guest has done all that and has ADHD and Tourette's. So my name is Angie from my bodyguard, and I'm welcoming Seamus Evans.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. What a great intro.
Thank you. And I was a little bit excited when you said yes. I did actually physically say yay because I was very excited because you are a role model, an all-round great guy. But I think your message, if people can hear that and understand, it might change the trajectory or the direction of some of our kids and adults alike's lives. But my first question to you is, did you ever think that your neurodiverse condition would prevent you from achieving the hopes and dreams and goals you had? Because I know you've always wanted to be in media.
Yes, I did. It was an interesting story with mine because I landed my first job on television at the age of 18. And I don't believe in luck. I believe in preparation meets opportunity. I just got the opportunity really early. And I had a national television show at the age of 18. And for the next 7 years, I hosted television shows all over Australia, which is a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think I got that opportunity early. Now, it was when I got that opportunity and I landed the job that it became evident to me that my neurodiversity is a problem and it can stop me from actually having this amazing opportunity and living it out. And that is multitude of reasons. One, I have Tourette's and I tick. So when you're on screen and you're ticking, it looks weird. This is in 2009 when it wasn't as, even diversity and inclusion wasn't as common and popular. Like if you were to hire someone today with Tourette's on television, there probably wouldn't be a problem. In fact, just recently in the ABC, the weatherman had a panic attack, and the way the ABC handled it was really great. And that highlights in today's society with diversity and inclusion, everyone is welcome. And that wasn't the case when I started. And so it was kind of made evident to me, hey, you've got these tics. That can be a problem. And so then I had to learn how to go, righto, because I could always suppress when I needed to.
Yeah.
But suppressing isn't the answer. It's a Band-Aid, not a solution.
Yeah.
So I had to then really undergo constant management to redirect, because it was a long-term career plan for me to be a television presenter. And it did present itself as an issue to have tics. So I had to redirect them. But also, it's a bit more complicated than that. I failed school. In no way am I blaming ADHD. In no way am I blaming my neurodiversity for failing school. I'm the only person to blame because I was too lazy and I didn't put the work in. However, having ADHD, my inability to concentrate on things that I don't care about stopped me from getting good grades because I didn't want to put the effort in. So as a result, I was faced with a few problems. One, I could barely string a sentence together that was grammatically correct. Two, I couldn't spell, I couldn't read properly. And I was ticking on television at 18. And this was pretty big.
Yeah.
So I had to then go, righto, how do I not let it stop me?
Yeah.
That was the first question of a very long self-exploration and, jumping into Lake Seamus without a paddle, so to speak.
Yeah. I love that. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So you were in there and then you realized, actually, I need to counteract or do some extra work to make this work.
Just because you get the opportunity, it doesn't mean you deserve to be there. An opportunity is, how many people are given an opportunity and they don't last? There's a big difference between, how do I explain this? When I was on television, there was always this ongoing commentary of famous sports stars that would be put on the news or put on primetime television. And us as kids TV presenters would be like, how come they got that opportunity? And a lot of the times they weren't very good presenters, but they had the fame attached to their sporting prowess.
Yeah.
However, the ones that stayed there rose to the opportunity. They fine-tuned their media skills. They got media training. They learned how to speak properly. They, they sharpened their toolkit in communications. So they deserve to be there. So just because you get the opportunity doesn't mean you deserve to be there long term. I got the opportunity and I was presented with some obstacles that would stop me from staying there long term. So then I had to go, righto, I want to keep this opportunity, time to sharpen the toolkit. So there are so many different arguments that you can make. When I say on my keynote on the stage, when I say they threaten to fire me because I have Tourette's, there's a lot of, oh, how dare they? But you have to think back then, that was a pretty scary concern. Oh my gosh, this kid with Tourette's on a kid's TV show, this is going to be a nightmare. And there's a natural reaction for them to think that. So then I had to put in so much effort to, overcompensate for that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. In there and then to stay there, you had to keep pedaling faster and faster and faster. Oh, I love that. Interesting. So I know you've talked in the past about your parents never spoke on your behalf about the condition. They let you decide how much information or how little, depending on who it was, how you felt. Can you explain that more to our listeners and tell me why that was important that they gave you that power?
Yeah, this was, I believe, a really pivotal and important part of my nurturing. I believe has equipped me with the ability to take ownership for both the good things in my life and the bad things in my life. So when I was younger and we would go to family events or events where I would see adults and the adult would look at me and then look at my mum and say, why does he keep doing that? Why does he twitch? Now, do you know how many times, and everyone watching and listening now can relate to meeting someone, seeing a child and the parent going, this is Terry, Terry has autism. This is Terry, Terry has a diagnosis of what kind, and they speak for them.
Yeah.
They give them the title of the identity straight away.
Yeah.
And us as adults, we know instantly. You can spot a child who has a diagnosis of something and you can go, yep, I get it. I can see it.
Yeah.
And so my mum never did that. My parents never did that. Instead, they would say, this is Seamus. This is my son, Seamus. And then when the adults would ask, why does he keep doing that? They would re-gesture to me and say, hey, Seamus, do you want to answer that? And so then I was thrown in the deep end to communicate with an adult, which is intimidating anyway when you're 10. Yeah. To then speak for myself on it. And then that molded my confidence, I guess, around the issue because I was talking about it more and I was crafting my sentences, my words. And yes, sometimes I would lie because I wasn't in the mood to tell my best friend's mum that I have Tourette's. It's weird. I don't want to get into it. And other times I would. So that was a pivotal moment for me to be able to take ownership.
Yeah, I love that. Because I actually believe that how parents speak and feel and behave about their child's condition impacts how the child feels and behaves about that condition as well. A little bit different, but the same. I'm adopted. And my parents growing up, I was told from a very early age, bedtime story, that I was chosen. They framed my adoption as a gift. And I think, even to this day, that's how I feel about it. And they created me feeling that way. It wasn't me just coming up with that. So I think that was a real gift. It's the same sort of thing. They gave me that in a nice way of saying, you didn't come from us. You were chosen.
Yeah, I think that's really, really powerful. And I think that we can't control what happens to us, but we are always in control of how we choose to react. So like, I don't know how to give an example, but even not neurodiversity or a diagnosis, even things like if you were to get fired or if someone were to break up with you, you didn't choose that. You didn't want that. You got broken up with. That's not what you wanted. You didn't choose that. Yeah, it hurts. It sucks. But you are in control of how you respond, and you can turn into the crazy ex who doesn't stop texting. You can turn into the crazy person who stalks him, or, you can reach out to close friends and have that shoulder to lean on, and you can reframe yourself, or even you can turn around and go, well, hang on, why? Where did I go wrong? And you can accept your faults, you can accept your flaws and work on it. And I think that's something that not a lot of people have courage to do, but you're always in control of how you respond and how you react.
And you said flaw, which is what your keynote is called, Turn a Flaw into a Superpower. And I love how you focus the neurodiverse diagnosis being the superpower. And so are you training or teaching that acceptance comes first, or how do you get people to embrace the different?
Yeah. So my main message is everyone faces adversity, and under adversity, you can either become a victim or you can become a hero. You still have the adversity. So whatever the diagnosis, whatever the trauma, whatever the background, whatever the upbringing, whatever it is, it's then on you if you're going to take that in your stride and wear it with pride and strengthen up your armor to take on the world, or to be a victim and constantly complain. And obviously that's a little bit more deeper and complicated with a lot of mental health side of things and neurodiversity or whatever. And in no way am I saying you got to be strong, because it's important to go through your emotions and it's very important to feel. And I just think my Tourette's in itself, there are some strengths to it, but it's the fact that I have Tourette's and that I'm confident about it, and I've chosen it as a mission to talk about it. That is my superpower. My Tourette's isn't actually a superpower. It's what I'm doing with it that is a superpower. Mm-hmm. So that's what makes me different to someone else who has Tourette's, who's insecure by it and they don't want to talk about it. So my Tourette's is a superpower because it's actually provided me with opportunities to speak to people who are insecure about their things, rather than and to be honest, there are a lot of benefits to neurodiversity, i.e. hyperfocus. My Tourette's has put me in very awkward situations. Therefore, it's very hard for me to get embarrassed. That is a strength. And you can go through and fine tune all the things that are strengths. Mm-hmm. But the whole concept, it's not the individual thing that's the power. It's what you do with it that determines the strength, not the actual neurodiversity or not the actual diagnosis. It's how you handle it. That's what determines the superpower in my mission and my statements, I guess.
Yeah, and the confidence in that. With my bodyguard, we sell GPS trackers, watches and pendants. And most parents buy them for the main reason would be to locate a kid instantly, but also to provide safe independence as they're, going age-appropriate independence. But what we've found is the feedback is the kids become more confident to actually do things. They'll go on an excursion because they know that they've got instant help, or the panic attack can be helped, or they not have as much anxiety because they've got this, backup. So it allows them to push themselves into the big bad world a little bit. And that's been really good for us to hear that although the reason people get it is this, the added bonus is it's actually giving these kids some confidence to get out there in the world, which is, what we all want for our children.
Yeah, it's that autonomy. And I think going back to my parents never speaking for me, yeah, you're never confident when your parents are just hanging around you 24/7 and your parent comes on the excursion with you in front of the other kids. There's no way you're going to get the confidence to do what you're on. But yeah, that's amazing. That GPS, it gives you the ability to be autonomous. Therefore, and confidence, I've done a lot of research on confidence because I teach it and I do workshops on it. It's about capability, the inner knowledge that you are capable of doing something. So that ability to be autonomous and encouraging that autonomy highlights your capabilities. Therefore, the next time you're like, hey, that wasn't that hard. I can do it. You are capable. Yeah.
I love that. That's what we found in that confidence. And you don't just have confidence. It's a muscle you have to use, and it builds and it builds.
You got to get the reps up.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know that you're not normally into self-promotion or, bragging, but I think it's really important that our listeners know what you've achieved in your career so far. So, you've hosted a couple of kids programs, as you say, from a very young age, Toasted and Totally Wild. Oh my God, Totally Wild, best show ever. That's amazing. Breakfast Radio, CFM, Queensland with Jules. And then you've been on a multitude of stages for schools, universities, corporations with your keynote, Turn a Flaw into a Superpower. So you're obviously shy.
Nah. Yeah. I've been able to that distracting the class because I couldn't concentrate has actually I've made a career out of because I was always distracting the class and making them laugh because it was a default because I was insecure that I wasn't understanding what the teacher was saying because I wasn't able to sit there and actually register it because of I'm assuming the ADHD wouldn't
Allow.
I just couldn't take it in a lot of the time. And instead of, yeah, exactly. And then everyone laughing at me and I'm like, oh, instead of laughing at me, what if I control that laughter? And then jumping up and beating them to it instead of them laughing at my silly wrong answer when my hand goes up. Why don't I jump up in front of the class and do something silly to direct the attention positively?
Yeah.
Therefore, 27 years later, I've
Yeah.
make a living out of it.
I was going to ask, did you use humor as a coping mechanism? So obviously, yes, you found yourself
Yes.
in that position. And so therefore you had two choices. You could either sink or swim with it and
Mm.
lead the humor in it rather than allow them to, I suppose.
Yeah, there were a few. So when I was in primary school, I would fight. People would tease me and I would punch them and I would fight. I know that's wrong, but I was a kid and I did because I didn't like being bullied. So I'd fight my way out of it. Then I
Mm.
got to high school and I was tiny and they were massive. And I went, ooh,
That's not going to
I,
work anymore.
yeah, I'm not going to win this one.
No.
So I worked out, well, hang on, what are the other tools that I've got? What are the other weapons? Oh, it's humor, my wit. Okay, I'll be funny. And I found that beating the bullies to the joke took away their attack.
You're a
They
power.
couldn't, yeah, well, they couldn't say anything because I was quicker and I was wittier with the joke that I've heard a million times.
Yeah.
So that's how I guess my humor really started fine tuning itself.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, in your career, what you've achieved already, I would suggest most people would be happy if they had one of those things on their resume, let alone all of those already. And you're not that far in. You've got plenty more in you for sure.
Mhm.
But do you still pinch yourself, or do you have like a favorite thing that you've already, oh my God, I did this.
Yes, I always am very, very grateful for the career that I have had already up until this point. I mean, it's kind of like that. The first one is the best one. I've loved every job that I've had,
Yeah.
but the feeling that I got when I heard the news, you're going to be the next host of Toasted TV, and this was before the uprise of YouTube. This was before Facebook, before Instagram, TikTok. This
Yeah.
was massive.
Yeah.
And I can't believe that it was like winning the lottery. And that feeling was incredible because I had never won anything. I had never achieved anything. I was the last to be picked in all the sporting teams. I never received awards, nothing. And I was chosen. And I couldn't believe it. Then I had 4 years, which is essentially a university degree,
Mhm.
hosting kids shows, a national kids show around Australia. Like, it's amazing. And I always kind of think back to it and I still have, memorabilia and, you know,
Awesome.
toys that I've got along the way.
Mm.
But every single job I've had has been a building block to who I am today in both the positive and the negative. So this is a pretty complex, vulnerable truth, but I was on television from the age of 18. So I was a young man. Now at 18, you're not very wise and you don't know who you are, but you're sure of yourself. And so I was 18 and I was an adult in the eyes of the law, and I was receiving all of this fame, people recognizing me, people asking me for autographs, people giving me free stuff. Now I received that all the way through. And then after the 7 years, people started treating me like a normal human being.
Mhm.
So then I was like, it was almost being gaslit
Yeah. Got it.
because society treated me like a celebrity. So I received the wrong social interactions.
Yeah.
So I crumbled. I had to rebuild myself and I had to change my interactions with people. I had to change my like it was actually a really strange interaction with the world that I didn't know existed,
Mm.
because
Mm.
that's not how people treat people.
Yeah. And that would have hit you in the face. Not,
It really did. Yeah.
yeah,
Then that's when the poor mental health started, and then I had to put a lot of work
into
into
that part of
sort
it.
that out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's an ongoing for, 99.9% of us,
Yeah.
actually, but that's that resilience and confidence that you speak about. But it's funny, you touched on it before. There's lots of famous people now that come out and talk about their neurodiversity, and I feel that that's been great because it puts it into the limelight, but also showing people that it doesn't stop you. Like Noah Lyle, coming out, and what did he say? ADD, dyslexia, anxiety, depression, fastest man in the world,
Hmm.
talking about his neurodiverse condition. So there's many famous people with Tourette's, Lewis Capaldi, there's
Mhm.
Billie Eilish, that sort of stuff, ADHD, Bill Gates, Michael Phelps, Emma Watson, blah, 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 blah. We can go on. Now, years ago, we didn't know any of that. And
Mm.
I'm asking you, do you think this has been great? Obviously it's great, but how has that impacted? Do you think that's been good for, in general?
I think it has been good. It has been amazing because it has taken away the stigma. So it's
Mm,
very normal to be quote unquote not normal, even though, because there's no such thing as normal. So the more people who come out that are neurodiverse,
mm.
the more we realize, is
It's
there
normal.
actually such thing as neurotypical?
Yeah.
Because I believe everybody has a symptom of something. So I don't know what neurotypical is, because I think everybody has symptoms of everything, but
Mm,
probably not enough symptoms to be diagnosed. But I think it's very important to not fall into a category and an identity, I believe.
yeah.
You are who you are, and just because you have a diagnosis, it doesn't determine you or your future.
Mhm.
And I personally believe you should brand yourself with the diagnosis as a way of being confident and accepting it. But I don't think that should last long. It should be a second. It shouldn't be the primary.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I agree, we all have, you know, there's parts of us that are neurotypical per se, and others that are a little bit different. Angie does this a little bit different, or that's just the way I am. I think you're right. I love that because I feel that about everyone.
Yeah.
I
And
feel
and think about it.
that.
Yeah. If years ago it was different to have ADHD.
Yeah.
Today, it is not different.
Yeah.
So if you are very like, I've got ADHD, which is fantastic, go for it. Acceptance is radical acceptance is the way through. But then you're just like everyone else with ADHD. You've got to be you. You've got to be an individual. You've got to be your authentic self. And ADHD doesn't define who you are. It's a part of who you are, in my opinion.
I have to agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. A
Absolutely.
lot.
Yeah.
I still get a lot of people coming up to me after my keynotes trying to correct my language. And I had someone recently and they said, you shouldn't say you have ADHD. You should say you are ADHD. Now, there is no right or wrong. And
Mm.
I've actually learned this about autism as well. Some people say, call
I
me
have,
autistic. And some people say I have autism.
yeah.
Just falls on the individual and how there is no right and wrong to how to live with a diagnosis. So however you choose to live with it,
It's right.
amazing. It's
Yeah.
whatever works. Yeah.
Yeah. I have to agree. Yeah. Oh, yep. It's a little bit hard in marketing when I do our marketing. I'm like, which way do I write it? Without upsetting people. So it is a little bit tricky because both are right. But when you have to draw a line in the sand and choose, I hope I get it right.
Totally. And I know exactly what you're going through when I haven't done YouTube for a while, but when I did, the amount of times I would get certain communities trying to tell me to not use certain words or languages or phrases. And I'm like, oh, this is tough. It's a minefield. And I don't,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess there's no right and wrong, but things change as time
Good.
goes on, I guess.
They do. They do. So what's next for you, Seamus? Are you going to, wanting to do more TV? Have you got like a documentary on this subject? Because I'd watch that. Just saying. But what's next?
I still am very, very busy with my conference bookings,
Oh,
speaking
great.
all over Australia. I've got Sydney coming up. I've got Brisbane on Friday. I've got schools all over the country. I was just in Albury and Adelaide. However, I have just started a production company and creative agency making good content for companies doing good things. And it's brand new, but I can't actually share the project that we did because I signed an NDA, but they are working in the disability space,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
really great. So making empowering, powerful content
Mm.
for, helping people live with their stuff.
The difference.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
But there's always something in the horizon with me.
I bet. Well, I'll be watching. So how do our listeners best contact you? If they want to book you for one of their schools or a different speaking gig, how do they contact you? What's best?
If you go to my website, seamusevans.com, SeamusEvans. I have to say that all the time on the phone. Do you mean Shane? Is it James? Who is it? And I have to spell it like that.
Oh, that's good. All right. So go to the website. You can get
Yes.
information there. That's wonderful. Seamus, thank you so much. I have absolutely loved this chat. I loved how you've demonstrated and validated that getting a neurodiverse diagnosis is not bad. It is
Mm.
how you frame it, perhaps, or building it, working at it, and it's part of you. And I thank you for helping champion this space and helping all the kids and adults alike. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.